It's time for another podcast. Podcast. All right. Well, I had trail mix before I went to bed last night, so there's a lot of gas this morning. I debated whether or not to fast. I didn't want to fast. I wanted to go to bed with not an empty stomach. And I found this situation where I didn't have dinner. I was running around too much. So, but I am proud of myself that I didn't eat the trail mix with the M&Ms. I just had the trail mix with the dried fruit. So instead of eating, 1,000 grams of sugar, I only had 999 grams of sugar. And that right there, folks, is progress. So, lady walking her dog. Oh, I saw this article about how the guy who created the Labradoodle regrets it. Because he says that he was crossbreeding these dogs and that the vast majority of Labradoodles are crazy or sick. Very few of them are healthy, and he regrets it. And my thought on that is good. I constantly see this. I hate what we do to animals. I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate it. Let's give you life, but take away your ability to breathe. Go! I can't stand it. I cannot stand it enough. I can't. Maybe that's partly why, if I had to choose a camp, I'd be a cat person. Because I know they do cat breeding, but it's not nearly as much as the dog breeding. And when I look at some of these dogs, I get depressed. I get depressed when I see a shaggy dog with a giant fur coat in Los Angeles. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I hate looking at that. It's like it's like what we're doing with climate change, the polar bears. They're going, hey, it's too hot. They are designed to live in the Arctic, aka cold weather. Well, this has gotten passionate. Yes, it is passionate. I hate what people do to animals. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I don't know. I'm afraid. There we go. I'm trying this trick where every time I say I don't know, I'm replacing it with I'm afraid of. Because my theory is I know a lot more than I say I know in terms of how I feel. And I'm just not willing to admit it. So I'm afraid to do anything about it. I'm afraid to talk about it. Because a lot of people have very strong feelings about their pets. And you know what? Good for you for loving your animal. But if you live in a desert, could you please not adopt a polar bear as a pet? Think about the polar bear. My goodness. There are so many ads for cannabis around me right now. Just billboard signs all over the place. I mean, this is... North Hollywood, the speed limit is relaxation. I should be relaxed because of the contact high of North Hollywood. That's what that should be happening right now. West Toluca Lake. How big is Toluca Lake? How big is the city of Toluca Lake? Is it 5 blocks or 4? And there's a west and an east? Come on! Rhode Island is splitting into 2. There's going to be West Rhode Island and East Rhode Island. Really, yes, they're just going to take maple syrup and just draw a line down the middle. What are we doing? What are we doing, I ask? I ask you, America. Well, I ask the world, what are you doing? Ooh, sheesh. I'm in the left lane. There was the green arrow for the turn lane, and I almost went. Even though I'm not the turn lane, I'm the left lane. I think my friend in high school did that, got in an accident. He had a Firebird, Pontiac Firebird. That was his high school car. And it looked great. The car he had before that, though, I gotta say, there's always going to be a special place in my heart for that car. It was it was like a 1960 or 1970s, I don't even know what it was, Pontiac or something. And our nickname for it was the Land Yacht. This car was massive. I feel like if this car went up against a modern tank, the people in the tank would be concerned. Would the tank win? Probably. But not by much. Man, I mean, they do not make those cars like they used to make those cars. Now, this particular car, the other thing about it, it was so big, and I think it was a two-door, but still, it felt like a van. And there was in the back of the car, the best feature, if you ask me, was that there was a hole in the floor. You could see the pavement as the car was driving. You could throw things down the hole. And we all got in this car. I got in this car. I'm pretty sure that cable that we saw through the hole was the brake line. And that if one of us wanted to, we could have put our foot on it and just slammed on the brakes. I don't think we should have been driving this car. And somehow we were all allowed to do this. And B, nothing bad ever happened, so that's good. Even with the hole in the floor, the thing was probably still safer than most of the cars today if something were to happen. Giant hole. I mean, like you literally, if you sat in the seat that had the hole under it in the back, you had to kind of open up your legs and and put your feet on the sides of it. Yes, so that, I believe what happened is the car was in Florida for a long time, or somewhere near the ocean, and there was a bit of a rust problem that was never dealt with. And thus the car has a giant hole in it. I don't even know if it's still going. I mean, we're talking, 23, 24 years ago now? Something like that? Not that long. Yeah, 21, 22 years ago. Who knows where it is? The hole could be the entire back seat now, for all I know. Or perhaps it was restored. Perhaps I could think positively, and maybe it was restored, and now it's complete. I don't know. You'd think he could have put, a piece of plywood over it or something. Just so you could put your feet down. So that was fun, but then he got rid of that, and then he got the Pontiac Firebird. I think even with the hole in the floor, that old car, the Land Yacht, was still probably a safer car than the Firebird. If you're in an accident, if somebody hits that Firebird, it's gonna fold in half. Somebody hits that land yacht, it'll be like when, because my dad at one point had like a 79 Cadillac or something, and we were in the mountains, and we were hit from behind by like a Ford Escort or a compact car. And we felt a minor bump. And we got out of the car, and when we looked at their car, it was totaled. But for us, it was like, honey, did you feel something? You look in the rearview mirror, and you see a Nissan Sentra that looks like what the DeLorean looked like at the end of Back to the Future 3 after it was hit by the train. Just metal. Scattered. It wasn't that total. I'm exaggerating a tad. But not much. And these are the things that stick in my consciousness. Actually, we ran off the road because it was so icy. When they hit us, we drove off the road. Again, there was not much in terms of an impact. It was more of, there was a bump and we slid off the road, more accurately. And then my mom was flipping out because my lip was bloody. And that was not because of the accident. That was because we were living in the climate of Colorado, which has negative 5,000 moisture. So my skin looks like Death Valley. The lack of moisture does more damage than the car accidents out there. Yeah, just the more I think about that place, it's a beautiful place. There's a lot going for it, Colorado, but I much prefer Los Angeles. Growing up, I'd always hear stories about Los Angeles, or I guess I had an image of Los Angeles as being this place that was lost. That was just, it's beyond anyone's help. And I like those places. I also, by the way, I realized something else I want to share with you. So when I was growing up, about a block away from my, I don't want to say house because it was a condo where we lived. But about a block away from my house, all right, fine. House in the sense of it was home, not house in the literal sense that it's a self-contained unit. About a block away, there was a Chuck E. Cheese. And when I was in middle school, there was a disgruntled employee that came in and shot up the Chuck E. Cheese. It was after hours, and he killed, I think, 4 employees and injured 1. And it was horrific, and it freaked everybody out because it was, the kid who did it was a high school kid who went to the high school that I was going to go to. I was in middle school at the time, but had gone to the middle school I had gone to. And I had a teacher who knew him, and he said, yeah, he seemed like the kind of kid who would do that. And I went, okay, great, good. And it was very, it was traumatic, come to think of it. And I realized recently that I recently moved to a place that many years ago there had been a violent gun death murder thing a block away from where I'm living now. And now I'm beginning to wonder if there's a part of me that only feels comfortable, in murder-adjacent areas. Now, is that a coincidence or is that Los Angeles? I don't know. In Los Angeles, everything is murder-adjacent. Ooh, that could be the title of something. But I remember that violence. The creepy thing about it is how desensitized I've become to it, and I don't even think about that. But I remember when that happened. What freaked me out about it is that it happened so close to where I lived that I had no idea. I didn't hear the gunshots. I mean, for all I know, I could have I may not have noticed it, but that it was so close to where I lived that it happened. That's what was haunting about it. And just another reminder of how fragile life is and how, no one is safe. By the way, this is a comedy podcast. All right, the gas from the trail mix is really hitting me now. I'm paying for it. I could have done my intermittent fasting and just not eaten, and I would have felt better, but I could not resist. The question is, do I do the intermittent fast now? I'm talking about murder, and then I go from murder to intermittent fasting. Great. What a recovery. I've got to clean my car. I have a keyboard on my car. I have the opposite problem. Like, I have so much crap in my car right now that instead of having a hole in the floor, I actually have two floors. The real floor and then the crap floor. If I lost the real floor, the crap floor would be a complete floor at this point. You're an animal, Josh. You're a goddamn animal. Feeling very haunted right now. Feeling very... Man, this is a negative podcast. I didn't expect it to be so negative. I'm depressed about what's happening with pets. I'm thinking about gun violence. Cars with holes in them. This might be the most depressing podcast I've ever recorded. On average, I think 5 to 10 people are listening to my podcast. And I know I've discussed this weird thing before. I'm going to discuss it again because it's on my mind. I can call myself a podcaster because I have a podcast. Is that good? Is that a good thing? Anybody can be a podcaster if they have the ability to cast a pod. But should anybody have it? Has anything been accomplished with this podcast? Other than me having a conversation with maybe 5 people? A one-sided conversation at that. That's how much of a control freak I am. That some people podcast because they have a strong message, they have something they want to say. I podcast because I just don't want to be interrupted. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. The world we live in today. Unbelievable. I'm driving by a poster for a new comedy, and they say original comedy. Original comedy. I guess that makes sense because they're doing a lot of reboots. So trying to sell that it's not a reboot, is that what they're saying? And the picture is, I can't see the title exactly, but it's Man and Woman, and then a heart. And then original comedy. Yes, this is a drastically new direction. Two polar opposites fall in love. Original comedy. I think we're beyond original. Nothing's original anymore. There's nothing new under the sun. That's what my Mom would always say. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all been done before. Has it? I have yet to see a comedy about a friendship between a giraffe and time. There you go. A Giraffe and Time. There's an original sitcom for you. Starts with the giraffe going, it's 3:30. And then Time says, I am an illusion. You are creating 3:30. I am the marriage of gravity, of space, energy. I am everything and I am nothing. And the giraffe says, did you clean the refrigerator last night? And Time says, there is no last night. And the giraffe says, look, we agreed that you were going to clean the refrigerator and I was going to take out the trash. I took out the trash. Did you clean out the refrigerator? I will clean out the refrigerator. Well, that doesn't help me. You know, you might exist in, or have the ability to exist simultaneously, but I have a linear existence, all right? I have a linear existence, and I need that refrigerator cleaned. And the fact that we live in a normal apartment, and I'm a giraffe, my neck is killing me! My neck is killing me! Clean the refrigerator. All right, fine, I'll clean the refrigerator. Giraffe and Time. Yeah, see, it's pretty much every other sitcom, even with those conceits.